Welcome my YouTube channel Leap Inspire. Adama was only 19, yet life had already taught her how to live quietly, as if her existence needed permission. She moved through her father's compound like a shadow, seen, but never truly acknowledged. Every morning she rose before the sun, her hands already busy before her heart could gather strength. To the world outside, she looked blessed, beautiful, calm, well-mannered. But inside that house, she was treated like a burden that refused to disappear. She was the last daughter of Usu, a respected hunter in the village. Her mother, the second wife, had died bringing her into the world. From that day, love became something Adama had to earn, not something freely given. Veronica, her stepmother, took control of the house with a firm heart and colder eyes. Her three stepsisters, Abena, Awa, and Helena, grew up watching how Adama was treated, and instead of pity, they learned cruelty. Adama tried. She truly did. From childhood, she greeted them with respect, spoke softly, and offered help even when her body was tired. But kindness did not soften them. It only convinced them she was weak. As the years passed, their dislike matured into something darker, something deliberate. They called her Angel, not because she was kind, but because in their dialect it meant ugly. They said it laughing, watching her eyes drop every time the word cut into her chest. And Adama learned to swallow pain without making a sound. Usu was the only light she knew. Every evening after hunting, he would sit outside, tired but calm, and call her to sit with him. One evening he returned and found her cleaning the compound quietly. He watched her for a moment before calling her name. She rushed to him and knelt properly, greeting him with respect. He smiled and handed her a piece of roasted meat. "Eat," he said gently. "You have been working." She hesitated, then thanked him. As she ate, he studied her face. "You are growing into a responsible woman," he said. "One day you will have your own home, your own peace." She nodded, but her eyes were far away, he noticed. He always did. "Tell me the truth," he said softly. "Are you unhappy?" Adama forced a small smile. "No, father. I am fine." He held her hand. "You do not need to lie to me. I know what happens when I am away." Her throat tightened, but she said nothing. She feared conflict more than pain. Behind the doorway, Veronica and two of her daughters watched silently, their eyes filled with envy. They hated the bond between father and daughter. It reminded them of what they could never take from her. That night, while Adama slept, tired and unaware, a quiet decision was made behind closed doors. She would never enjoy happiness for long. By the time Adama turned 20, endurance had become her daily language. Chores, silence, obedience. Even when hunger weakened her body, she kept going. Peace, she believed, was better than arguments. Usu remained her only comfort, unaware of how far hatred inside his house had grown. And Adama did not yet know that the same house she endured would soon become the place where wicked hearts exposed themselves. By the time Adama turned 21, endurance had become her second skin. She no longer expected kindness, and she had stopped hoping for fairness. Her days followed a strict rhythm: work, silence, obedience. If her body complained, she ignored it. If her heart ached, she buried it deeper. She believed peace came from enduring quietly, not from speaking up. On the morning of her birthday, no one mentioned it, no greeting, no smile, only heavier work. Usu left early for hunting, placing his hand briefly on her shoulder before stepping away. "Be careful today," he said gently. Adama nodded. She understood what he meant. The moment he disappeared, Veronica's voice sharpened. Orders poured out without pause. Wash the clothes, cook, fetch water, clean the rooms. Do not waste time. Adama obeyed without a word. Her hands scrubbed until they burned. Yet when she finished and laid the clothes neatly to dry, Abina came slowly, holding a bowl of dust. You didn't wash well, Abena said calmly. I did, Adama replied softly. Abena tilted the bowl, letting dust fall onto the clean clothes. Then wash again. Something broke quietly inside Adama, but she said nothing. She bent down and started again. Later, after cooking, she found almost nothing left for herself. Veronica did not look away. If you're hungry, manage, she said. Adama drank water and returned to work. That afternoon, sent to fetch water, Adama walked alone with the heavy container balanced on her head. She watched other girls laughing with sisters, with friends, and felt a familiar ache settle in her chest. Why does my home feel like the only place I don't belong? She whispered. The next morning was worse. She had not eaten properly, her body sore, her head heavy. Yet before she could rest, Veronica sent her to the stream again. At the path's narrow bend, she saw a young man standing quietly ahead. He stepped aside politely as she approached. Good morning, he said. Good morning, she replied, careful not to slow down. I've seen you before, he continued. What is your name? Adama. And your father? Usu the hunter. His expression changed, as if something settled in his heart. My name is David, he said, Kevin's son. Adama knew the name. Everyone did. She lowered her eyes. He noticed the heavy container. Let me help you, he offered. She shook her head immediately. Please don't. Why? If I return with a man helping me, she said quietly, it will become trouble. David was stunned. Trouble for accepting help? He stepped back. Then I won't insist. She nodded and walked on, unaware that something had already changed behind her. That same day, David went home and told his father he had found the woman he wanted to marry. Kevin listened carefully, surprised by the certainty in his son's voice. When David described Adama, her composure, her quiet strength, her fear of her own household, Kevin understood this was not ordinary attraction. 3 market days later, Kevin and David visited Yusu. When Adama heard unfamiliar voices, her heart tightened. She saw David seated beside his father and quickly returned to the kitchen. Soon she was called outside. David stood respectfully and spoke clearly. He wanted to marry her. Usu looked at his daughter, joy and concern mixing in his eyes. Adama agreed softly. Behind the walls, envy turned to rage. That night, Veronica and her daughters gathered in silence. If she leaves this house in honor, Veronica said coldly, we will be shamed. She must not marry him, Abena said. We act tonight, Awa added. Helena, trembling, refused to be part of it and walked away. But the others had already crossed the line in their hearts. Late that night, as Adama slept from exhaustion, Abena and Awa heated water quietly, carrying it toward the room where they believed she lay. Their plan was simple: injure her, destroy the marriage, erase her future. But fate does not walk with wickedness. When they poured the boiling water, the screams that followed were not Adama's. Panic exploded in the darkness, and as they ran, they collided with Adama herself, awake, alive, holding herbs in her hands. Moments later, Helena and her secret lover emerged, screaming in pain. In that instant, the trap meant for Adama turned against its makers, and by morning, the village would know everything. The night did not end quietly. Screams tore through the compound, dragging everyone from sleep into shock. Doors flew open. Lamps were lit. Fear ran faster than understanding. When Usu rushed out, his eyes met a scene he would never forget. Helena writhing in pain, her skin red and blistered, and Kojo clutching his arm, groaning helplessly. Nearby stood Abena and Awa, shaking, crying too loudly to hide the truth. And in the middle of it all, Adama stood frozen, herbs slipping from her trembling hands. Veronica arrived last, her voice sharp with panic. "What is happening?" she demanded. But before anyone could answer, Helena lifted her weak hand and pointed. "Ask them," she said hoarsely. They went into Adama's room. Silence fell like a heavy stone. Usu turned slowly to Abena and Awa. "Is this true?" His voice was low, dangerous. Abena dropped to her knees, crying. "Father, we made a mistake." Awa shook violently. "We thought she was there." Usu's breath caught. "So you plan to pour boiling water on Adama?" The words echoed in the corridor, stripping away every excuse. Veronica tried to step forward, but Usu stopped her with a raised hand. "Do not defend wickedness," he said. "If you knew, you are part of it." Adama's chest tightened painfully. She had endured hunger, insults, and humiliation. But this was hatred with intention. "Why?" she whispered, tears falling freely now. "What have I done to deserve this?" None of them could meet her eyes. Neighbors gathered as the truth spread. Elders were summoned. Kojo's family arrived furious and ashamed. Helena's secret relationship stood exposed, and the disgrace cut deep. Usu faced the crowd with sorrow burning in his eyes. "I raised my daughters to protect each other," he said, "but jealousy has turned them into enemies." By morning, the entire village was whispering, and before the sun climbed high, the news reached David. He heard it while walking with his father's messenger. The words struck him like blows. Boiling water, night attack, Adama's room. He did not wait. He ran home breathless and told Kevin everything. Kevin's face hardened. "This is no longer jealousy," he said. "This is attempted harm." Elders were gathered, gifts were prepared. By midday, they stood at Usu's compound. David's eyes searched for Adama. When she appeared, pale and exhausted, his heart clenched. Usu placed a hand on her shoulder. "Forgive me," he said quietly. "I did not know they could go this far." "You did not cause it, father," Adama replied softly. David stepped forward. "Sir," he said firmly, "I want to complete the marriage now. I want Adama to leave this house today and come under my protection." Kevin nodded in agreement. There was no delay, no confusion. The traditional rites were completed quickly, and Usu placed Adama's hand into David's. "Protect her," Usu said. "I will," David replied without hesitation. From a distance, Veronica watched as the daughter she tried to destroy was taken away in honor. Abena and Awa could not lift their faces. Their plan had failed, but their shame had become public. Kojo's family demanded justice, and the elders agreed. Abena and Awa would bear responsibility for the injuries and disgrace. As Adama prepared to leave, she turned once toward her sisters. "I never wished you evil," she said calmly, "but I will no longer accept cruelty in silence." Then she walked away beside David, leaving behind the house that had once been her prison. The village watched in silence. The girl they mocked had been lifted, and those who plotted her fall were left standing in the ruins of their own wickedness. Yet the story was not over, because some hearts do not stop hating simply because they have been exposed. And while Adama believed the worst was behind her, darkness was already gathering again, this time in public. The day Adama left her father's compound, the village believed the story had ended. They thought justice had been served, shame exposed, and peace restored. But hatred does not die quietly, it waits, and sometimes it chooses the loudest moment to return. Adama's new home was modest, but warm. For the first time in her life, she woke without fear. David never raised his voice, never demanded silence. He listened. He noticed. He protected her in ways that felt unfamiliar and overwhelming. At night, Adama would sit alone and wonder how kindness could feel so heavy in her chest. Freedom, she learned, could be frightening too, but whispers followed her. At the market, voices dropped when she passed. Some called her lucky, others called her dangerous. She destroyed her own family, they said. Veronica had not been silent. She painted herself as a grieving mother, and her daughters as victims of misunderstanding. Abena and Awa, facing punishment, fed the lie with tears, and slowly doubt spread like smoke. The elders called a public gathering. David wanted to stop her from going. "You owe them nothing," he said. Adama shook her head. "If I remain silent again," she replied, "the lie will become truth." The square was full when they arrived. Veronica stood already, dressed in mourning cloth, her voice trembling as she spoke of betrayal and dishonor. When she finished, murmurs filled the air. Then Adama stepped forward. She did not shout. She did not cry. "I was called weak because I endured," she said calmly. "I was hated because I did not fight back. But silence did not save me. It nearly killed me." Gasps rippled through the crowd. She told them everything. Years of hunger, insults, forced labor, and the night boiling water was carried to her door. She lifted her sleeve, revealing scars from earlier punishments she had never spoken of. "If fate had not moved me that night," she said, her voice steady, "you would be mourning my death today." The crowd turned, eyes shifted. Truth has weight, and it landed hard. One elder stood. "Enough," he said. "Cruelty hidden inside a home is still cruelty." Veronica collapsed, screaming denial, but no one listened anymore. Abena and Awa were ordered to leave the village to serve under relatives until they learned humility. Veronica was stripped of authority in Usu's house. Her power ended that day. Silence followed. Then something unexpected happened. Usu stepped forward, tears streaming freely. He knelt before his daughter. "Forgive me," he said, his voice breaking. "I failed to protect you." Adama rushed to him, lifting him immediately. "You gave me love when you could," she whispered. "That was enough to keep me alive." The gathering ended not with shouting, but with reflection. As Adama walked away beside David, the same villagers who once ignored her now bowed their heads in respect. She was no longer the girl who survived quietly. She was the woman who spoke and lived. That night, sitting under the stars, Adama rested her head on David's shoulder. "I used to think endurance was strength," she said softly. "But strength is choosing to live." David smiled. "And you chose it. Some stories end with revenge. Hers ended with truth. And sometimes that is the strongest victory of all."